Welcome. I'm Rachel Gold with Ingenuity Marketing Group, and today I'm here with Wendy Nemitz, who is our founder and one of our principals, and we are talking about the fact that marketing is emotional, not logical, even for CPA firms. How are you doing, Wendy?
I'm doing well, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So, to start out, can you tell us a little bit about the role of logic versus emotion when people are looking to buy CPA services?
Sure. Most of the people we work with, which are CPAs at the leadership level, most of them went to college years ago to learn how to make logical decisions. And they've been advising their clients in primarily logical decision making ever since. So when it comes to marketing, sometimes they're a bit stymied. They look at things like, it's logical that we should be hired, or it's logic because we have the highest quality audit process. And they don't understand sometimes why the emotions always affect their growth. And so, one thing I think a really good marketing person does for you, or a marketing consultant, is really helps you tap into how people make decisions with emotions rather than logic, and how to use that knowledge for your best advantage when you're competing with other firms.
And, I think we've talked about sometimes it can look like logic when it's really emotion. Tell me a little bit about that when the decision making process, what's going on?
I think a lot of CPA firms are frustrated with the audit process because maybe they do EBP audits or other types of nonprofit audits or things, and they get to the proposal table and they're constantly losing on fees, or at least that's what their clients tell them. And then they find out that they actually were a lower bidder than the winner, or they find out that the winner was not the low bidder. And here's what actually happens is the first level of decision making in the buying process is logical. For example, if you were building a house, you wouldn't hire the lawnmower to build the house for you or to design the house for you. I mean, the first question people ask is something like, do you have the qualifications I need to solve these problems? However, a lot of CPA firms can do an EBP audit. Many are qualified to do a nonprofit audit. Almost all of them are qualified to do some tax work. And so if all these people have the basic qualifications, what's the next level of decision? It's about liking, it's about trusting, it's about feeling like they're people you can talk to and work with. And do you notice I said the word feeling? That's because that's where the emotional decision comes in. Now, when someone feels that they like your competitors more than they like you, they'll justify it with logic and say, well, their competitors had a combined 37 years of experience, and your experience is only 28 years. Now, you and I both know that 28 years, 37 years experience, it's more the quality of the experience than actually the time when it gets to be above a certain number of years. They'll justify that emotional decision with logic, but really what they're doing is they're looking for people that feel like they can be trusted, that they'll be enjoyable to work with, and they'll really come through for the company that's hiring them.
So, I know one of the pieces we're about to talk about is the role of branding. And can you first just define for us what is a brand?
Sure. I think most people think a brand is a logo. So, for example, McDonald's logo is the Golden Arches, and they've been the Golden Arches forever, pretty much, with slight updates. But really, what McDonald's brand is a promise of the same consistent food no matter where you are in the world for a very reasonable fee. So, you see, those Golden Arches are a symbol for the brand promise. When it comes to professional service firms, a brand is about a series of messages or promises of an experience you consistently provide to every single client. So even, for example, if you have very different niche markets, if you serve manufacturers and you serve hedge funds, for example, even though you have very different niche markets, you serve them in the same way. So you can have a series of messages or promises that tell people this is who we are to work with, and this is what it will feel like to work with us. It's actually, for most professional service firms, much more important than their logo.
And I notice you use that word feel again. I think that's a natural bridge to talk about role does the brand play in making that emotional decision happen in someone looking at your firm as a prospect?
I hate to tell you this, but a brand is primarily emotional. It is about promises that people have made, but maybe not kept if you're a prospect, meaning you haven't experienced it yet. It's about what it will feel like to work with them. It's what it will the experience will be, whether it will be people that you like and you trust that are like you, it's almost all emotional. And the problem is when people brand their firm, they make some real mistakes, and they're not mistakes out of intent, they're more out of trying to make their brand logical. For example, they might have a large committee designing their logo. And I'll tell you, you'll get a lot of bad plastic surgery by the time you're done, and it will look like it. Or they'll ask internally, they'll ask the leaders of their firm, what do we promise? And I'll tell you that the leaders of the firm will pick two or three of the five main threshold promises we see all the time. And those are we give, we really care about our clients, we give really high quality, we do really high quality technical work. The Goldilocks promise, we're big enough to serve you, yet small enough to know you. Um, Again, go back to quality. I mean, it's sort of the things that everyone picks because they know they deliver that. When we talk to clients and say, what is this firm really delivering for you? You would not imagine what an honor it is to hear these stories about how their building burnt to the ground and their CPA showed up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be there with them when the fire trucks were still there and help them through the whole year beyond. That goes way beyond client service or quality work, which frankly everyone expects from a CPA firm. That talks about a heartfelt commitment to your problems. And there's ways that good marketing people can message those words so that other people get it. And they say, uh-huh. I mean, you think of the State Farm promise. It's not, we sell you really good insurance, and these are the following 60,000 conditions. That's their contracts. That's not their brand. It's more like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. I mean, it evokes this whole thing of being local, your local insurance person. It evokes that it's somebody who cares about you and who would show up in the middle of the night. Those are the kinds of words that you're looking for in your brand. And again, it's very emotional. Logic and those trained to do purely logical decision makers, it just doesn't cut it as far as branding is concerned.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're going to finish up in a minute, but I think we promised people we would leave them with a few tips. How can CPA firms use emotional marketing to bring clients in?
Well, first of all, realize that if it makes you slightly uncomfortable, whether it's a new website or a logo or some photo images, and I don't mean all out crazy uncomfortable. I mean, if it makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, like, are we really that? You're probably just beginning to go from boring to interesting on the branding phase. Really, branding almost always pushes the firm that we're working with to think of themselves as bigger and better and more heartfelt than they actually think of themselves as. Now, that shouldn't be based in nothing. That should be based in research on your clients, what they say about you, in research on yourselves, what you say about you, and very importantly, whenever you do any sort of marketing, you always want to look at your competitors and say, what are they promising? What is the experience that they're saying they'll provide to people in the marketplace? Because, of course, if you're a prospect these days, especially with the internet and websites, at just the touch of a button, you can look at everyone and say, which one do I want to work with? The most important thing you can do is set your prospects up to expect great things from you and then show up and be great.
That's excellent. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today, and we'll look forward to more video blogs in the future.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.